Okay, so let's continue with our Git series. And in the last video, we have covered we are working on the GitHub workflows, basically GitHub actions, and we see the basic workflow. So what are the what is the name, what is the run name, what is on, how we can define the job, and under the job how we can define the steps, and how we can use third party actions. And in the next video we also covered okay, from where we can find the third party action. So basically from the marketplace, or if you just click on the edit, so the marketplace will automatically open here. So this thing we already covered. All right. So in this video, we have covered the next things, that is the context and the variables. So basically, so we are going to cover variables in the context. So basically, let's suppose you are working on some pipeline or some job, and in that job you want to access some environment variable. All right. So one thing is that you can hard code it. All right. So and one thing is that you can define somewhere and then you can access. So that we are going to see. Okay. So let's create. So this is the basic workflow. Let's create the another workflow file. So to dot variables dot YAML, because it is in YAML format. So we have created YAML. Okay. So let me open it side by side just to look at the syntax. Let me split it. Okay. So now we can give the name of our workflow. So name can be anything. So let's give the variables name. Run name is optional whether you want to give or not. So let's give the run name as well. So let me copy paste. So you could see here I'm using github.actor is testing our GitHub actions. All right. So generally in Linux or in Windows, how you are going to access environment variable, you do export, right? So export some variable name and then value, right? And then value, and then you are, if you have to print that, then you do echo dollar and var. So you access using the dollar symbol. So similarly, we are accessing using dollar symbol. So it means this is some environment variable, right? But this is something some inbuilt environment variable. So this is not like which we have defined. This is some inbuilt environment variable, right? Okay. On. On means when we have to trigger our workflow. So currently we are not raising any PR. Only the event is manual request. So all the workflow we are triggering manually. So for the manual, we have to use them workflow dispatch. And now after that we have jobs. Okay, so workflow has been defined. So that okay, name of the workflow, when has to be triggered and what has to be triggered. So what means what jobs. So let's give the name of the job. So we can give the first job. This is the name of our job, and this job runs on it should run where. So it should run on the Ubuntu system, right? And under that job, what steps should be triggered? What step should be triggered? So that is the step. So we can give the step name. Okay, what is the name of the step? So let's suppose the step name is printing the environment variables, because we are working on the environment variables. And what it should run? It should just print. And how to print? Print means echo. Okay, so the value of, let's suppose we will define some environment variable welcome. Value of welcome is, so how to access that environment variable dollar and then welcome, right? But if you see here, okay, let's see, first we have defined something. Okay, the value of welcome is something, right? But where we have defined the welcome? Nowhere we have defined the welcome, right? So nowhere we have defined the welcome. So there are multiple ways you can define the environment variable. So go to the github.com. So this is our repo, GitHub Actions demo. So you can go to the settings. So click on the settings, and if you click on the secrets and variables, see, secrets means and variables. So we are defining some variable, right? So environment variable. So there is an option called under the security, there is an option called secret and variable. So click on the secret and variable, and then actions. So click on the actions. So you could see we can define some environment we can define some secrets, and there is a separate tab. Click on it, variables. So we can define the variables. So we can define the environment variables. We can define the repository variables. So environment variables, like let's suppose you are working on some dev environment, queue environment, prod environment, and you want to run your pipeline based upon if the environment is dev, then use this variable. If the environment is QA, then use that variable. If the environment is prod, then use that variable. So that is for this. But currently we are not looking the environment variables. We will definitely going to look into the further videos. But for the timing, we are going to look some basic environment variable, how to set that. So we are like setting the repository variable. So click on the new variables. All right. So what is our variable name? Welcome. Welcome. Okay. So let's give any value. So uh, Sumanshu, I have given like my name. All right. So now this variable has been defined. Right. And hello. Yeah, that is fine. Value is, and we are going to print. But there is a one catch here. Why it is okay? We have to. Why it is saying okay? There is a one catch here. So we can't access using just welcome. We have to do is where's dot welcome, where's and then dot and then welcome. So we are accessing the variables. So we have to access using where's dot welcome. So I am going to cover. So if you go to the official document, if you click on the variables, because we are covering context in a variable. So currently we are like working on the variables. And if you scroll down, and I can show you. So you could see creating configuration variables for a repository. So currently we have defined variable for a repository. For this particular repository, we have defined. So they have mentioned, okay, click on the settings tab, then go to the secret variable, then go to the action, then create a new variable, go to the variable section, then put some name and then put some value, and then click on the add variable. So this whole thing we have already done. So this whole thing we have already done. And this is also mentioned on their official documentation as well, right? And the other thing, like they have mentioned, okay, how we can get the some environment based variable, like this thing we can, because if you click on the manage environment variable, we don't have the environment. So automatically it's come to the environment. So first we have to create some environment. So that is like a separate thing. We are going to cover at later stage. All right. So currently we are like working on this secrets and variables. Now how we are going to like access this. So if you search here where's dot, so we have to access using where's dot. So the repository variable, so this repository variable we are going to access using where's dot. Okay, so this has been done. Let's push our code to just to check whether our code is working or not, is there any bug or not. All right. So let me add that, and git commit minus adding variable workflow, and then git push. So it has been pushed. So let me open that. So is our repo. So go to the actions tab. Now I can see my two things. One is basic workflow, one is variable. Because it is manually triggered, so we have to manually trigger. So click on the variables. So we have to manually run. So click on the run workflow and run workflow. And just wait for a couple of minutes and refresh it. So you could see this is the run name basically. So, and if you scroll down and you click on it, so the job has been started. Let's see whether whatever defined in our job, whether it has been printed or not. So printing the environment variable, this is the name of our step, which is fine. Click on it. So the value of welcome is Sumanshu Nankana, because in our you could see in our like variable section, I can show you again in our variable section, secrets and variables, and under the action in our variable section. No, so where that goes? Okay, under the variables. So in our variable section, we have defined this variable. So this is like very useful when you have to access some variables, you can define it, and you can use that. Okay. Now come to, so these are the variables. So some variable you have defined, but sometimes you have to define some environment variables as well. Okay, so how you can define your environment variable? All right. So let's create one more step. Name printing the. So here we can mention repository variables. Here we can say environment variables. Setting up and printing the environment variables. Okay. So now here let's say what we have to do. We have to do echo. Okay, some environment variable. Let's suppose we are running some of our Postgres bit. So there is this, some Postgres host, username, password, port, some so many things. Like so, let's say okay, the first name is and how to access dollar and let's suppose first name and last name is dollar curly bracket last name and quotes. Right, but where is this first name and the last name? Where I have defined? Because this should be the environment variable of this particular step all right. So what I have to do, I have to write env here, hit enter and write first name. Okay, let me give the first name Swanshu and give last name and let's give the last name as a Nankana. Now these repository variables, so these are the repository variables, so these variables we are accessing using where stored, but these are the environment variables because we define under the env section. So we should access using env dot. We should access using env dot. So let's try whether this is going to work or not. So git add, git commit -m, adding env variables step, and then git push, and let's see whether it's going to work or not. So click on our actions, go to our variables tab, and then we have to manually trigger because it is a dispatch workflow. So let's wait a couple of seconds. Our job has been started. Let's see if it's going to work or if it is going to fail. The job has been started. Yeah, so job has been completed. So this is the printing the repository variable, which we already seen. And now setting up the printing and environment variable. So the first name is Manchu and the last name is Nankana. So it means it is like successfully able to pick the environment variable. So it is successfully able to pick the environment variable. So these environment variable where we have defined under the jobs, then job name, then step name, then environment name, right? But there are some environment variable we have defined on the workflow level. So this is defined and because jobs has many steps and this environment variable is defined only for this step. All right, but if I want to define some environment variable for the whole workflow, so how can I do that? So we can define on the top. So env, so let's say is greeting, and we can say namaste. So this is one of the environment variable we have defined. All right, and let's create one more step, name and printing the workflow environment variables. All right, and what to like print echo the value of greeting env wheres is and how to access dollar and env dot. So what was the value? Greeting, and that's it. So let's try that. Git status, git add, git commit -m, define workflow environment variable, and then git push. Let's see if it's going to work or not. Click on the actions, click on the variables. We have to manually trigger it workflow because it's a dispatch workflow. So let's see whether it's going to work or not. Click on it, click on our first job, and let's see whether it's going to work. Yeah, so printing the workflow environment and the value of greeting env bears is namaste. All right, and there are one more thing. Let's suppose I have defined greeting variable here as well, And let's suppose I am define greeting variable here as well, and one greeting variable is here, and here the value is namaste, and here let's suppose the value is hello. So if I'm going to print here the value of greeting env var is, so whether it's going to print this or whether it's going to print this, so it is going to print the one which is defined under the this under the particular step level. So basically it is going to override the global one, right? Because if it is not defined, then it is going to check the global one. If it is defined, then it is going to check the step level, right? So these are the things. And one more thing, so basically what you can do is, so let's suppose we have our welcome variable, right? So name, our like name is defined under the welcome variable. We can define environment variable not just by hard coding, not just by hard coding, but even we can take the value from the vars. So let me copy it. So we can take, because we know welcome is one of the repository variable, and how to access the welcome using vars dot. And now, so by using this, some value will come, and that value is going to assign under the name, and this name is the environment variable, and this environment variable is the workflow environment variable. So let's try to print that. So let's create a one more step. Rather than the one more step, we can print here as well, because this is the workflow environment variable. So we have to use the two echo statements. So we have to use the pipe symbol. So this is one echo statement, and let's use the second echo statement, and the value of name env var is name. Let's see, git add, git commit -m, added one more env var, and git push. And let's see, let's try that. Click on the variables and trigger the manual workflow. So workflow has been triggered. So click on it. Let's see. The job has been started. It will just take a couple of seconds. Yeah, it's completed. Let's see. So you could see the value of the name env varies Vancho and Kana. So it doesn't mean like you have to define, you have to hard code here, like we have hard code here. Maybe you can define in the vars, and then from the vars you can like use it here. Okay, so this is variables which we have covered, right? But what is context? Because there are two topics. One is context and one is variable. So context na in general world, not in terms of a GitHub actions, but in general, maybe like if you are the Python developer and if you are doing some functional testing, then definitely you are going to use the behave function. And or maybe any Flask applications and Go application, you definitely are context app application context. So context is something which is like globally available. Globally available means like it is available across the our application. So context are a way to access information about workflow, run, variable, environment, jobs, and steps. So basically, like here we did GitHub.actor. So GitHub is a context, actor is some of its property, right? So GitHub is the inbuilt context, like where's is their inbuilt context, env is their inbuilt context, right? So because using these context we are going to access like our property. So there are so many access given like GitHub, because we already use GitHub.actor. env we already use env dot where's we already use. Maybe in somewhere you want to get the job id, job number, so you can use the jobs. You want to use the, you want to get the step name, step runner dot os we already use. I think the one of the our workflow, let me show you. So if you go to the basic workflow and basic workflow yaml, yes, see, runner.os we already use in one of our videos. So runner is also the one of the context. GitHub is also one of the context. GitHub.workspace, GitHub.repository, GitHub.actor, right? See, so GitHub is a context. Actor is one of its property. repository is one of the property, workspace is one of the property. So runner is like context, OS is one of the property. Maybe there could be many property, right? So context is basically like some information which we can like using that information we can access multiple things. So that is basically the context. Okay, so they have like give you so many example, like under the GitHub, under the jobs we can get the concurrency, so many things like. And under the variables, let me show you one more thing. Like you could see this thing, these three lines, right? So I have told you where we can define the variable. So one is the entire workflow. We already see if we have to define some environment variable, we can define on the workflow level. So we already define the environment variable on the workflow level. Okay. The content of the job within the workflow. So here we have defined the environment variable on the step level, but can we define the environment variable on the job level, so that doesn't matter how many steps we are going to define in that job, all the steps can access that environment variable. Yes. So one is env at the top. One is under the jobs, then job id, then env. So this is the jobs, this is the job id, and then env. So it means, and when we define run on, then we can define env here. So env, and then you can say job env where, and let's say some value. This is job environment variable, and this job anywhere can be accessed within the whole job. All right, so we can access along with that. So they are going to access directly as well, like this as well. Yeah, and along with that we are going to define the steps level. So jobs, job id, steps, and then env. We are already did that jobs, job ID, steps, and then under the steps. So it could be many steps. Step is basically list, step one, step two, step three. So it could be any step. And then under the env, we can define the environment variables. So here the job env where. So let's try to access in all the steps. So to access, we have to use two echo statement. So let me do that. Echo, echo, the value of job env where is. I'm not sure whether it's going to access like this or not, but I can try that, because there it seems they are accessing directly, because if you see greeting, they are going to search directly dollar greeting. Let's see. And let me access at other places as well. So it can be accessed at all the places. But if you are going to access first name in this step, you are not going to access that. Even we can like test that as well. So git add git commit minus m, define job level env where, and then git push. So it has been defined. Let's trigger our workflow. Go to the actions, go to variables, and trigger the workflow. Let's see if it is going to work or not. So job has been started. Yeah, looks it work. So printing the repository value. So the value of job in variable is this. So the value of job in variable is this, and the value of job anywhere is this. So yes, we can access directly as well, but I think if we use this syntax, then we don't need to remember can we access using dollar, or can we access like that. Maybe it could be like some standard, so like this, like where's like so let me try this thing as well. So let me try this thing as well, job anywhere, so that like we don't need to like remember two syntax. We can just remember one syntax. Git add git commit minus sam change formatting something, and then git push. Let's try that. Click on the variables and run workflow, run workflow. Run workflow. So it is going to fail. Located at position 1 with unrecognized name value job anywhere. I think then we can't access using this, but maybe we have to use env dot, because that is environment variable. Env dot, and then let's see, git add, git commit minus m, correct syntax, git push. So actions and then variables and then run workflow. So let's see, looks this time is going to work, because if there is any syntax error, then it is definitely going to fail within a couple of seconds. So looks it work, but whether it's going to print the thing or not, yes, it is going to print that thing. So yeah, and one more thing, like as I told you, uh, we can't access this first name because this is job level. That's why we are going to access at every step. But this is step level. But can we access here? Equal, let's see. The value of first name is, and let me do that. Can we access this? Definitely not. Git add, git commit minus m. Try accessing step, and we were in another step. Git push, and let's try. So variables and then run the workflow. Hopefully we will get some empty value. Yeah, so printing the environment variable. So you could see the value of the first name is blank. So we did not get any value. So because that is the step level environment variable. So this is only accessible within that step. If you want any environment variable, which should be like available across your all the steps, then you can define under the job level. All right. So that's it. That's the end of the video. And thank you.